All right, we are live. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting of the Subcommittee on Non-Energy Utilities of the Environment and Transportation Committee. It is Wednesday, March 18th at approximately 3:15 p.m. And today we're going to take up two bills. And we have with us our counsel, Steve Ross. And so the first bill I'd like to take up is HB 1037. And we did go over this bill yesterday. We were awaiting approval from the Appropriations Committee, even though it doesn't have a fiscal note. I guess we were waiting for approval that it didn't have a fiscal note. Steve, could you bring that up again on the screen just so that we can briefly look at it, refresh people's memory a little bit, and then hopefully we'll be in a position to take some action on the bill. So, Leanne, could you let Steve Ross share, please? There we go.
All right, everybody should be looking at the bill now. House Bill 1037. Sorry, I'm just closing some windows on my laptop.
Yeah. And if we could just page down to the operative language.
Go down to it.
Yeah.
Here's the operative language right here.
Okay, and this talks about how the PSC is going to conduct a study and make recommendation regarding the possible potential scope, structure, and implementation of oversight of broadband service and VoIP in the state. And we had quite a robust discussion yesterday about what that would entail. And then the only other part that I think is maybe relevant is they're supposed to report back to us on the E&T committee and the EEE committee in the Senate by December 31, 2026. So that is essentially the bill. Are there any questions about the bill? Delegate Grammer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would this be a good point to make a couple final comments?
About voting, like explaining your vote, or do you want to, it depends on what, yeah, go ahead, make your comment.
Okay, I'll just keep it to a minute or two to keep it short. So just for clarity, I used to work for an internet service provider, so I have a little bit of background on how these companies operate. As far as network resiliency, outages are already reported to the FCC. That includes a lot of critical consumer information and how people are already impacted. For like emergency situations, these providers already have, if you ever been to PJM, like the PJM Command Center, I used to work in that environment where it was kind of like an either outage or issue response where it was a bigger weather-related issue. And those are already in place, not only to deploy people to get technicians out, get issues fixed, but most frequently work with BGE. That was a very regular occurrence, or even local or state governments. That's already in place in all of these organizations. The consumer protection in 2024, the FCC mandated that providers create a broadband fax label, which is kind of like a nutritional foods label, which uses a standard template to display things like speed, price, data allowance. So that information is already available. We mentioned 911 services. So when we move to IP-based broadband delivery boxes, like the box in your house, that's on the network. It's an IP box. They put what's called an EMTA in those, embedded multimedia terminal adapter, that although the device is not regulated by the FCC, the outcomes are. So things like accessibility, reliability, location accuracy, that's all already governed by the FCC. And finally, I take pride in the time I spent at this provider. Of course, I moved on, but I'm reluctant to kind of move to oversee these companies in any kind of utility fashion. The way we've governed utilities, our infrastructure is a bit of a mess. That's why our distribution rates are high right now. Our rates are quite bad. And I just wouldn't want to move toward that kind of environment for these companies. So for that reason, I'll be a no today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate Grammer, and we appreciate your expertise if I'm just going to respond before I go to Delegate Baker. I just want to point out to the subcommittee that this is just a study at this point. There is no, we are not voting to, the original bill was to put it under the jurisdiction of the PSC. This bill, as it is now, is not. It's just to study it, and I'm sure that the issues the Delegate Grammer brought up will be looked at very closely by the PSC. And it's asking them to make recommendations. Delegate Baker.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Now I understand this is a study bill, but I'm looking at the old fiscal note, and I'm not sure I understand what 0.94 for 27, 1.07, and it has all these different amounts out through there. Were they the original recommended fee increases?
Yes, sir.
And then that would be based on what?
Well, that was
Per
based,
customer?
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask, let Steve answer
Sure.
that.
Sure, so you're talking about the box on the front of the fiscal note?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so for the Public Service Commission and the Office of People's Counsel, there's always an offsetting revenue because they assess the utilities for their costs. But what that is you can interpret those numbers as millions of dollars to do the bill, to implement the bill as introduced. So PSC was asking roughly $1 million, between the two of them, $1 million a year. Most of that is Public Service Commission related.
So
For
that fee, if this bill would have passed with this so we don't have to deal with this now with the study bill.
No, sir. The
That's
fiscal note on the study bill is zero. We confirmed that
Okay.
with the PSC.
Okay, so back to the fee structure that was original, where would that fee have been placed? On what bill you're?
So the way the utilities are assessed right now for the Public Service Commission is Public Service Commission basically sends them a bill for their portion of the operating cost based on their proportion of statewide revenue. It then gets recovered. That's a recoverable cost from ratepayers is basically how it works.
So that would have showed up on,
It doesn't show up. It would have been allocated across every utility. So every electric utility, telecom, water, gas, transportation network operators, everything that the Public Service Commission regulates, their proportion of revenue is basically how it works. However big you are is how much of PSC's amount, annual budget you're assessed.
okay. So, and then when we see the results of the study, these numbers could show back up again. Or more.
A bill to regulate broadband would I would think would be expected to require people to do so. It depends on the nature of the bill, but yes,
Okay.
something, the next stage of this, if there was another stage, based on the recommendations of this report or any other bill, typically would require physicians to do something like this.
Okay, I understand.
Right.
Thank
And-
you.
Yeah, and let me also point out that included the bill, that was the bill as introduced, which
Correct.
also included wireless and satellite, which were taken out of the bill. So I think that probably would have an impact on those numbers, even if the bill had gone forward as it was introduced with those taken out, if that makes sense, Delegate Baker.
Okay. Yeah,
So, yeah. So, but this is just a study bill, and the fiscal
Mhm.
note on this particular bill, as it's before us today, as amended, would be zero.
okay, thank you.
Delegate Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to move the amendments.
Well, before we do that, I appreciate that, but Delegate Naraki has his hand up. Did you want to talk about the amendment or ask about the amendments, Delegate Naraki?
I mean, maybe it's about the amendments. It might also be just a general question about the bill.
Okay, so if it's okay with you, Delegate Naraki, Delegate Allen has moved the amendments. So if we can, is there a second to the? Seconded, thank you, by, I think that was Delegate Long. All right, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are now on, thank you. We are now on the bill as amended. Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around how are we able to do a study without any cost to that? Obviously, there has to be some cost to a study, no matter what the study is, right? There's man hours that's involved and things like that. I'm just trying to understand that.
Well, we did ask I can answer, and maybe Steve can amplify. So as the bill sponsor, I did ask the PSC this question. This is not, they said they can do it with existing resources. That's their answer. And they said the fiscal note would be 0. So that means they don't anticipate it would be extra man hours, depending on, I don't know what their work schedules are, but they don't think it's extra man hours.
I mean, if I may,
Sure, go ahead.
in the context of studies like this, it depends on the agency and depends on the ask of the study. So in this case, PSC is an agency that is largely full of technical staff who can contribute meaningfully to a study like this. Not every agency has the same level of technical staff. And typically, it's about how many hours in the scope, but also if they would need a consultant. And in this case, they're saying they're not going to use a consultant, which would have a cost. So they think their existing technical staff that already deal with rates, that they have a ton of JDs, they have a ton of policy advisors. They will spread the work out across their existing technical staff and legal staff and complete the study. It just depends on the nature of each study about whether or not they need a consultant or how much modeling they need to do, like economic modeling or energy modeling. That can push costs, but in this case, that's not in this study.
Okay, thank you,
It
Steve.
really
That was
depends
helpful.
it really depends by study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Grammer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to see if CTIA was here, if they could comment on how they would be impacted by this study, or they have any thoughts on any aspects of it.
Yeah, can you?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Well, let me recognize you, okay? And let me just say that I have a pretty strict rule in this committee. I don't like it when people start testifying. So please, Jeremy, answer Delegate Grammer's question fully. But remember, I'm not looking for a recommendation for you on the bill. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Sorry for interrupting you there, Madam Chair.
No, that's all right. You're fine.
No, I'll just get right to it. So, our position remains respectful opposition, really just because we do struggle to see what issue the bill is trying to solve. We do recognize that it is a study. Just to get right to it, Delegate Grammer did mention a lot of the data collection elements that are in the bill that do already exist. The outage reporting, the pricing and deployment data is already publicly available on our websites. And I will just finally add, much of this information also is collected by the State Broadband Office. And so, to get right to it, if you set aside the data collection element for a second, which is already happening, we really don't see how this bill could be construed as anything but realistically a pathway to enhanced regulation of the market that we do feel is working quite well right now. So I'll just leave it at that. Madam
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. That was good.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Any other questions about this study bill? Hearing none, is there a motion to move the bill as amended?
Move the bill as amended, Madam Chair.
Thank you,
Second.
Delegate Allen. Is there a second? There's a second. Delegate Long. Any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving favorable on the bill as amended signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
3 noes. Okay, thank you very much. The bill will be moved favorable. Moving on to the next bill we have before us, which also has a sponsor problem, which is 1164, HB 1164, and this has to do with the small water companies in Western Maryland. It's beyond that, but the impetus for this is small water companies in Western Maryland that were purchased by American Water. American Water asked me to bring a bill that would require rate consolidation across all of those companies, the idea being to try to smooth out the the rates there, which, as you've heard in testimony on this bill and another bill, are quite high in some communities. I think the bill I'm proposing, there's a sponsor amendment to the bill that is very takes away the requirement that the rates be aggregated. It basically reverts to current law. Current law now is that the PSC may do that. They may consolidate, they may allow the rates to be consolidated over all the companies. But if it's not in the public interest, then they deem that it's not in the public interest, then they don't have to do it. So so this bill now, with my sponsor amendment that I'm proposing, is that we stick with current law on that. But the other part of the bill was a mechanism to develop a plan, a parallel plan for water utilities that we have with electric and gas utilities that provide assistance to low and moderate income ratepayers who can't pay their bills. This is a program that's been long-standing for gas and electric companies, but it's not available to privately held water companies. So the amendments, and I'm going to have Steve go over the bill with the amendments once we move the amendments. The amendments would, as I say, revert to current law, which is that the PSC may aggregate those rates. And it also changes the language with respect to the low and moderate income housing, low and moderate income ratepayers program, to be that the PSC, give the PSC some time to investigate whether or not how that program would be implemented, because it is very difficult for the PSC to implement across an electric company. The electric utilities and gas utilities are much larger. The water companies are very small. So implementing this would probably across some of these companies could probably, they want to make sure that it doesn't increase the rates too much for the other ratepayers, because the other ratepayers pay for this program. So the idea is that they investigate before they implement the low and moderate income program to assist ratepayers. That would certainly help ratepayers in these Western Maryland communities, which is why I wanted to keep it in the bill and move the bill forward. So with that, I'm going to ask Steve to call up the bill and go over it, so that we know what, go over the bill, the amendments in the bill, and the amendments, I guess.
You want me to do the bill as amended?
Yeah, the bill is amended. Thanks. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we'll do the bill as amended, as introduced, as Madam Chair was just describing. There was going to be a shall require for a rate consolidation, and a rate consolidation would basically take two or more small water companies and allow the cross allocation of costs to be borne by both groups or more, because there's more of these companies, and then sort of like spread capital costs around, right? That was in the bill. Current law, this is a possibility. It may occur subject to PSC approval, and as introduced, it was I believe a shall. All of that is struck from the bill. The current law remains. It was struck from the bill, not the law. So the option for water company consolidation is still there in current law, just like it is now under the bill, still there. Moving down through the struck language, though, we're going to get to this limited income mechanism. So this was a law put in 2021, passed in 2021. They're still working. It's almost complete. PSC issued an order in mid to late February, mid-February. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. It's 50 pages, and I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I've been a little busy in February and March. But in general, what this will do is allow for existing existing electric and gas customers. It will allow a automatic bill reduction for residents who are already under energy assistance programs through OHEP, right? So we've heard about Office of Home Energy programs this year, and that those customers starting next January will be it's still being built, but will be built out, but will be additional rate help.
That's for electric, right?
That's for electric and gas.
Right.
And
Which
they
is not
have
in the bill, not in this.
millions of customers, right? They have millions of customers. That's where I'm going with this. But these small water companies don't have millions of customers. They have a couple hundred or 1,000 or maybe 10,000. Like they're small, right? There's not a customer base. So what the bill does is takes this as a good idea, effectively, that this is something that want to get extended to water companies, these private water companies and sewer companies, small private ones. But to do that, the commission has advised that you can't do it in exactly the same way that it's happening for electric and gas. So there is it's a two-part bill. It's a study to see how you could do it with water, because it would need to be different, and you need to look at some of the feasibility of requiring it and sort of how you would do it. It's a little open-ended because PSC needs the ability to sort of ask the right questions and come up with the answer, knowing the intent to see if it can be feasible. That happens first, and then after that, the limited income mechanism piece kicks in the statute to be allowed to do it. So it's a 1-2. And PSC is advised, again, this is something they just did and still ongoing for electric and gas. This is sort of in their wheelhouse of what they do anyway. So this is another existing resources of their sort of the normal operations of what the commission does, is look at this kind of stuff. So it's a 1-2 piece for the bill. Study first, and then expansion to this later. And it would probably take a bit to implement, because it has taken several years to do this for the electric and gas. So this is not an immediate, but it is you have to start with figuring out the feasibility is the point. I think the point of the amendment here, or the bill in its amended form. I'll go down to this piece. That's basically it on this bill at this point. It says study, and then it's focused on the limited income mechanism piece and not the consolidation piece in its amended form.
Questions about the bill? I know it's complicated, but Delegate Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the testimony, I can't pull mine up. Was there any testimony of unfavorable or favorable out in the Allegheny County area?
There was.
Allegheny County commissioners were favorable, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, they were favorable, but there was, they were favorable to the bill as introduced, but there was unfavorable testimony from some other local officials. I'm not sure they were from Allegheny County.
How about Larry Smith?
Larry Smith was against.
He's unfavorable.
Very unfavorable, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that was related to the rate consolidation piece.
The rate consolidation part, yes.
But
That's what
which is
they all
not in the bill.
focused on. That's
Mhm.
what they focused on, yeah.
So is that still in the bill?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
with the caveat that the PSC has to work on it, because they can't just, for the reasons that Steve laid out about the rate the base of rate payers. So just so you understand, Delegate Baker, it's not in there cleanly as it was, but there are now some, they have to look at it first and figure it out. Okay. Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I am certainly not an expert on this issue, not from Western Maryland, but it's my understanding from some of the news stories that some of these issues were caused because of either aging infrastructure or water supply issues. Are we doing anything here to address that element of it, or is this just sort of ratepayer relief, for lack of a better way to describe that here? I'm just trying to wrap my head around what all we're doing here.
I think, and maybe Steve wants to jump in, this is ratepayer relief. And I think, actually, to be fair, I think, the acquisition of some of these smaller water companies by a larger entity like American Water makes, allows for the, repairs, the capital improvements to be made.
Okay.
The problem is the costs are still, being levied on the ratepayers, because that's
Okay.
that's how we do it, as you know, from working on
Yep. Fair enough. Now my brain is
all
wrapped
this
around it
energy
better.
stuff. It's the same type of system.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
That helps me
okay.
kind of put myself in the
Sure.
proper context. Thank you.
Sure. Delegate Baker, did you have another question, or was that a residual hand? That was a residual hand. Are there any other questions on this complicated bill? Let me say, just to add, that there is a Senate cross-file, and that bill, to my knowledge, has not been amended. So the Senate cross-file is the original bill that I put in, for consideration by the committee. And I don't know what's happened with that. I don't think it's gone anywhere, but it is in the Senate as a cross-file.
Hasn't moved
Are there-
yet.
No,
that
it
I've seen.
hasn't moved yet. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments about this bill? Delegate Grammer.
I'm sorry, did you recognize me, Madam Chair?
I did.
I just wanted to note that I'm going to have to abstain on this bill.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Are we on the amendments, Madam Chair?
Yes, we are on the amendments.
I move the amendments then.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Delegate Long. All in favor of the amendments signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? And Delegate Grammer, you want to be recorded as abstaining, is that correct? He's off camera, so Delegate Grammer is abstaining. Okay, now we're on the bill as amended.
Move the bill.
Move the bill as amended and seconded by the Vice Chair. Any further discussion on the bill as amended? Hearing none, I think perhaps Delegate Baker is abstaining too, because he's not coming back. So all those in favor of the bill signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition. All right. And I note that there are 2 abstentions. Okay. Thank you very much. I think that is the work of this committee, as far as I can see, this subcommittee, before crossover. I expect that we will have maybe some work after crossover on some Senate bills that come over. Again, I'm new at this, so I guess that's true. That's my recollection of being a member of a subcommittee, what happens. I want to thank you all. This is a kind of a, technical area. And, I don't know about you, but I've dealt with a lot of things that I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about, like, I won't even go into it, but, and I really appreciate the attendance on this subcommittee has been very good. And I really appreciate your attention. And also thank you to the staff, Steve and Kristen, who's not on the call right now. Madam Vice Chair, did you have something you want to say before we adjourn?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to say thank you to the whole team on this subcommittee so far. It's gone very smoothly, but especially to you, Madam Chair. You have handled this very well, very efficiently, and I think everyone's been heard. And so kudos to you. I'll give you your flowers as
Well,
Madam
thank you.
Speaker
I
would say.
appreciate it.
All
I
right.
appreciate it, but it's
Thank
not
you all.
necessary. Thank you. Okay. So is there anything else to come before the committee today? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right. Thank you all very much. We'll see you on the floor at 5:30 or maybe in another subcommittee.